In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 3 dietary factors that have contributed to the rise in type 2 diabetes. And this information is brought to us by the Friedman School of Nutrition and Tufts University. Tufts University responsible for the food compass, which tells us that Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios and Chocolate Cheerios should be encouraged, whereas ground beef and eggs should be minimized. We can trust them, right? And the information that I'm presenting to you today was kindly provided to me by Ben Anderson from the UK. Thank you very much for that, Ben. And just before we get into it, guys, please do me a massive favor. Smash like, but importantly also, please subscribe. Your subscription really helps to grow the channel, and I am grateful for your support. All right, guys, let's get into it. Okay, so we're on the Sky News website, and apologies for the distracting ads up here. I can't do anything about that. But if you're interested in buying property in Japan, then check out this video. All right, so let's go down and let's have a look. Let's see if we can get rid of that ad by going down. Maybe not right now. Okay, 3 dietary factors most to blame for the increase in type 2 diabetes, research says. Okay, so I'm going to be super interested to find out what they are saying and what this research is. All right. So a study looks at data from 1990 and 2018 for an insight into which dietary factors are driving the increase in type 2 diabetes worldwide. Let's check out what's happening. Okay, oh, scary image. Okay, let's go. Let's go down. When is this ad going to disappear? Okay, here we go. All right. So researchers have identified 3 dietary factors that could be most to blame for the increase in type 2 diabetes. The findings are based on a research model of dietary intake in 184 countries by researchers at the Friedman School of Nutrition, Science and Policy at Tufts University in America. Okay, so we know that we can trust Tufts University because they are responsible for the food compass. And if you can't trust the food compass, what can you trust? Okay, so let's keep going. They considered 11 dietary factors and found the 3 most responsible for the rise in diabetes were not eating enough whole grains like oats and whole wheat, eating too much refined rice and wheat, and eating too much processed meat. Did I just say much? Okay, the study found that other factors such as drinking too much fruit juice and not eating enough non-starchy vegetables, nuts and seeds had less of an impact on the number of new cases. Okay, senior author Dariush Muzaffarian, who is Jean Meyer Professor of Nutrition and Dean for Policy at the Friedman School, said, "Our study suggests poor carbohydrate quality is the leading driver of diet attributable type 2 diabetes globally, and with the important variation by nation and over time." Our study suggests poor carbohydrate quality is the leading driver of type 2 diabetes. Yes, carbohydrate quality, carbohydrates at all are responsible for type 2 diabetes. Full stop, end of story. Okay. These new findings reveal critical areas for national and global focus to improve nutrition and reduce devastating burdens of diabetes. I guess I can see what's coming now. If we'd only been eating quality carbohydrates such as Cheerios, none of this would have happened. All right, the Nature Medicine study found that poor diet contributed to more than 14.1 million cases of type 2 diabetes in 2018, more than 70% of new cases worldwide. Poor diet contributed to 14.1 million cases of type 2 diabetes. I would say poor diet contributed to majority of cases of diabetes, whether that's 14.1 million cases or however many it is. Poor diet is the contributing factor. I've done no research and I could have told you that. Okay, I didn't have to spend squillions of dollars on research to tell you that. All 184 countries saw an increase in the disease between 1990 and 2018, with the study also finding that poor diet is causing a larger number of type 2 diabetes cases in men versus women, in younger versus older adults, and in urban versus rural residents. All right, so look, just looking at that basically, what am I going to take from that? Men versus women. I mean, I would guess men are more likely to be drinking a lot of their consumption of of things like alcohol and stuff like that, which is going to make the poor carbohydrate diet that they're already eating even worse, because your body's going to be burning off the alcohol first, and so it doesn't get a chance to even attempt to burn off all the processed crap that you're eating. Okay, processed meat. Okay, am I reading? Sorry, processed meat. In younger versus older adults. Okay, so yeah, younger people are probably more likely to be eating processed crap, and because they're the ones that are being subjected to, more of the recent advertising about how we should eat plant-based and how we should eat these processed non-meat meats and stuff like that. And in urban versus rural residents, yeah, I would think again, urban people, people living urban areas are more likely to be eating junk because there's more junk in easy reach. Simple as that. Okay, so Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia, particularly in Poland and Russia, where diets tend to be rich in red meat, processed meat, and potatoes, had the greatest number of type 2 diabetes cases linked to diet. Okay, so let's just, again, not looking into anything, but I'm sure there's context here that is not being taken into account, right? So let's take Russia, for example. Diets tend to be rich in red meat, processed meat, and potatoes. Okay, who said potatoes were good? Certainly not me, all right? That is a carbohydrate, and I would say that's not quality carbohydrate because that's an oxymoron. And then processed meat, I don't eat processed meat because I don't think it's necessarily good for you. For example, I don't eat bacon because the bacon in Japan, you can't get anything that looks like it's natural bacon or unrefined or unprocessed to the nth degree bacon here, like it's full of sugar and all sorts of other things. So I don't eat processed meat. I mean, it's not a stretch to imagine that processed meat is probably better for you than processed carbohydrate, but still. Okay, so going back to Russia, lots of red meat, processed meat, and potatoes. What else do they consume a lot of? Alcohol. What does alcohol do? It gives you fatty liver disease. What does alcohol also do? It takes priority of being processed in your body above all else, because your body sees it as a poison and wants to get it out, wants to fix it up. So your alcohol is going to get processed first. So you're drinking 3, 4, 5 bottles of vodka a day. I don't know what the average is in Russia. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. But you're drinking so much vodka or whatever it is every day, your body's busy processing that. Doesn't matter whether you're eating red meat, potatoes, whatever you're eating, you're not going to be healthy. And remember that in years gone past, type 2 diabetes was the disease of alcoholics. In years gone by, if someone presented with diabetes and fatty liver, what are you going to say? You're a drunk. Not anymore, but diet has changed. Okay, so let's keep going. There was a high incidence in Latin America and the Caribbean, particularly in Colombo and Mexico, blamed on high consumption of sugary drinks, processed meat, and low intake of whole grains. Yeah, I would blame sugary drinks. If you're drinking cans of Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, all those kind of things, then you are going to be sick. You are going to increase your chances of getting type 2 diabetes because you're drinking sugar. And so far, sugar is the leading cause of type 2 diabetes around the world. And despite sugar being the main culprit involved in type 2 diabetes and the fact that young kids are now getting fatty liver disease, I don't think I've seen sugar mentioned once in this article. Okay, so low intake of grain, the whole grains. Okay, well, yeah, that's rubbish. Last week, love these native ads here. They're so pleasant to look at. Last week, it was revealed the number of diabetes cases in the UK had passed 5 million for the first time, with Diabetes UK saying the nation is in a rapidly escalating diabetes crisis. Shut off the sugar then. Get the carbohydrate out of people's diet and see people recover. It said the risk factors of type 2 diabetes are multiple and complex and include age, family history, ethnicity, as well as being overweight or obese. Okay, overweight and obesity are not the cause of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is the cause of overweight and obesity. Being obese does not give you type 2 diabetes. Sugar gives you type 2 diabetes. Processed carbohydrate, most carbohydrates will give you type 2 diabetes if you eat enough of them. Okay, so the article ends there. So I went and did a little bit more research, and I went on to the Tufts website, all right? And we've got Tufts Now. Okay, and it's got a little bit about this. Okay, I'll accept cookies. So study links poor diet to 40 million cases of type 2 diabetes globally. Okay, I can link 100% of diabetes cases to poor diet, and I don't need to do any research. All right, but one thing that kind of irritated me when I first saw this article is this picture. Okay, so processed meat is a hot dog or a wiener or whatever you want to call it, and it's in bread. Now, of course, I'm not going to say any of this is good for you, but if we look under the picture, it says regionally, areas where diets tend to be rich in red meat, processed meat, and potatoes had the greatest number of type 2 diabetes cases linked to diet. All right, again, I'm not saying this sausage, wiener, frank, whatever you want to call it, is good for you. However, of the things in this picture that are not mentioned in this caption under the picture, I think that the bread is the worst thing for you. This is the problem. We're demonizing the wrong things. Again, I'm not saying that the processed meats are good for you, but we're demonizing the wrong things. It's the bread. It's the processed, it's the refined carbohydrates. That's what's making you sick. Anyway, I went through this article. There's not a lot of information in here that wasn't already in the Sky News article, and I actually feel like Sky News has just done a little bit of a copy and paste job, which I'm sure Tufts are happy about anyway, because then their narrative is protected. All right, so it's basically the same thing. So I went looking for more information, and I found in nature.com the details about this actual study. Okay, and this was published on the 17th of April. Okay, so let's just go down and have a look at it. All right, so 1,580 people have accessed this so far. All right, so abstract. The global burden of diet attributable type 2 diabetes is not well established. This risk assessment model estimated type 2 diabetes incidence among adults attributable to direct and body weight mediated effects of 11 dietary factors in 184 countries in 1990 and 2018. Learn what a period is or a comma is, for goodness sake. In 2018, suboptimal intake of these dietary factors was estimated to be attributable to 14.1 million incident type 2 diabetes cases, representing 70.3% of new cases globally. Largest type 2 diabetes burdens were attributable to insignificant whole grain intake, excess refined rice and wheat intake, and excess processed meat intake. Okay, so basically there are three factors, and those three factors were listed in the previous article. Insufficient whole grain intake, absolute rubbish. So you're trying to tell me that if you said to a person, you know what, I know you're enjoying that pizza, but if you ate some whole grains, you could ward off your type 2 diabetes. So, have the pizza, but also eat 100 grams of whole grains a day, then you'll have no problems. It's absolute garbage. Whole grains do nothing for you. And of course, then you're going to get the fiber argument. If you get fiber in your diet, then you're going to be much healthier and you're going to do much nicer poos, and you're going to get all that nutrition from the fiber. Firstly, fiber is not a nutrient. Second, you're not going to do yourself any favors in the poo department by taking in fiber. So the second one is excess refined rice and wheat intake. Yeah, I can get down with that. Excess refined rice and wheat, yeah, that would be a contributor. That would be a huge contributor to blood sugar spikes and eventual type 2 diabetes. And excess processed meat intake. Look, I'm not saying that processed meat is good, but I don't think this is the cause of type 2 diabetes. I'm not sure it's even much of a contributing factor unless we're eating processed meats that are high in sugars. And then it's not actually the processed meat, it's the sugar. It's the carbohydrate component. All right, so let's keep going. Type 2 diabetes is a leading determinant of morbidity and mortality globally with enormous economic and social consequences. Yes, so stop drinking and eating your carbohydrates. Just cut it out. Between 1980 and 2020-2021, the number of adults with diabetes, 90% of which is type 2 diabetes, increased from 108 million to 537 million. Can you imagine what it's going to be like 20 years from now? More people are going to have diabetes than don't have diabetes. And it's because of all this garbage information, with corresponding increases in obesity from 100 million to 764 million adults. The phenomenon is global. No nation has experienced a decline in diabetes or obesity in the last 40 years. Diabetes creates extraordinary burdens on individuals, families, nations, and healthcare systems. Yes, but you know who makes a lot of money? Big food, big pharma. Okay. Okay, so we're going to skip all this. I want to show you this graph here. And just how ridiculous this graph looks, right? So, the proportional burden of type 2 diabetes attributable to suboptimal diet jointly and by each individual dietary factor globally in 2018. Right. So, the biggest issue, suboptimal diet, that's the overall, right? So, insufficient intake of whole grains is the biggest issue. Excess intake of refined grains. Okay, I agree with that one. No, yes. Excess intake of processed meats. Probably not great, but I'm not sure that that's really the cause. Excess intake of unprocessed red meat. Absolute garbage. Insufficient intake of yogurt. What? Excess intake of sugar-sweetened beverages. So you're trying to tell me that this is less of an issue than an insufficient intake of yogurt. You're trying to tell me that eating red meat is more of an issue to diabetes, to type 2 diabetes, than having sugar-sweetened beverages like Coca-Cola. Okay, what's the thing with potatoes? I mean, I'm not saying a potato is good for you, but why are they so focused on potatoes? Insufficient intake of fruit. No. What? So, a contributing factor to type 2 diabetes apparently is insufficient intake of fruit. Here's the thing about fruit. It's obviously not as bad as processed candy, processed sweets or whatever, right? But fruit is fructose, right? And when you ingest fructose, it behaves in the same way in your body as alcohol does, save for the 10% that goes to your brain, with alcohol that is, right? So it gets metabolized in your liver. And what's likely to happen is it's going to contribute to you getting a more fatty liver. Fructose is not your friend. If you think candy is bad for you, if you think all those sweets and treats and stuff like that your kids are always demanding is bad for you, then fruit is almost as bad as those things. Insufficient intake of nuts and seeds. Insufficient intake of non-starchy vegetables. Excess intake of fruit juice. So that's not a problem. Like, just drink all the fruit juice you want. Again, fructose is fructose. Whether it's in a can of Coca-Cola or it's in fruit juice, it behaves the same way in your body. Your body's not going, oh, hang on, this is from a branded can of Coca-Cola. I'm going to treat this differently to this yummy orange juice that's come out of a bottle. Like, it's the same thing as far as your body's concerned. And there's no fiber argument with fruit juice. There's no fiber left. Okay, guys, I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to call it a day. Thank you very much to Ben Anderson for sending this information through. Really appreciate it, Ben. If anyone else has anything you'd like me to react to, please shoot it through, whether it's an article, video, audio, whatever it happens to be. Please shoot it through and I'll get onto that. Guys, do me a massive favor, smash like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.